Welcome back, everyone. It's time for our next panel discussion. Well, it looks like a very insightful day, one panel after the other, and the kind of discussions we've been having since morning is seeming to be very enriching and very informative as well. So let's take that trend forward and let's move on to the next idea that we're focusing on, which is banking in the new digital normal. In fact, what is the need to operate with agility but in compliance? So what is the need exactly there? Well, let's find out the answers because it's a very, very pertinent topic. Now, what we're going to do is quickly introduce our speakers for all of you. In fact, moderating and spearheading this session, we have with us Jyothirlatha, CTO, Godrej Housing Finance Limited, who comes with a career of close to 25 years in technology, having spent close to a decade each in ICICI Bank and TCS in various roles. In fact, currently she's building a new age customer-first technology platform that will be the bedrock of product innovation in the years to come. And joining her, we also have with us Ambvat, who's a CIO and Director IT, CRIF India, who's a highly accomplished and seasoned professional with more than 17 years of global experience and specialized in developing IT strategy, innovation, enterprise solutions that deliver business benefits across business processes and horizontals. We're also joined by Mr. Srinivasa Muppaneni, Group CIO, Telangana State Cooperative Banks, creative, innovative, and results-driven banking and strategic technology leader who comes with more than 30 years of rich experience in banking, IT project, and delivery management in banks and technology firms. That brings me to our next speaker, Mr. Milind Varerkar, General Manager IT, Saraswat Cooperative Bank Limited, whose professional career spans to 30 years as an integral part of IT departments. In fact, leading by example with self-development and to maintain high quality standards, that's been his yardstick as well. That leaves me with our final panelist. We also have with us Rohan Vaidya, who's the Regional Director, India and SAARC, CyberArk, Asia Pacific and Japan. In fact, he comes with more than 20 years of experience in managing sales, marketing, operations, and holds the distinction of being cutting edge throughout the career. So on that note, it's also time to bring on board our set of panelists for all of you. And without any further delay, we're going to get the session started in just a couple of seconds. So stay with us and we'll get our panelists on board right away.
Good afternoon all. So today we will be discussing a very interesting topic. So that is banking in new digital normal. We need to operate with agility, but in compliance. It seems to be a little bit tough, but how we can achieve that? We are having many experienced panelists here. So to just give you some kind of background, COVID-19 has caused many disruptions. So, but at the same time, it also presented a lot of opportunities for the digital innovation and initiatives. So to maintain this corporate stability, new digital normal is upon us and companies are rapidly adopting this in terms of their people, processes, technology, transformations and all. So organizations who have fast-tracked these digital transformation are staying ahead of the race, and market conditions are changing to adopt this new normal, which in turn is requiring a lot of changes in business and operational processes and also in technology. So now technology is having a huge challenge, and because this is a huge enabler for organizations to adopt the new normal, and is expected to be very agile, and it is not only in the solution delivery, but agile security is also a kind of new normal nowadays, and digital first, cloud first, touch free, and all these approaches are widely being accepted now. So now I would like to hear from panelists on their experience and opinion in this area and how they're ensuring this agile deliveries along with the security and compliance in their organizations. First of all, I would like to ask Mr. Srinivasa. So what are the different challenges and how are there any lessons learned, unlearned, and to adopt this digital normal? What are the basic challenges that he's facing in, sir, you are facing in your organization?
Yeah, thank you, Jyoti. Thanks to B2B Media who gave this opportunity to interact with a lot of people who are stalwarts in the environment and the industry, and also at large the audience who are viewing this webinar. Yeah, new normal, particularly when now the Jyoti has told that the COVID-19 has changed the entire environment of technology and banking. So earlier days, normally bank means what we feel is a bank, a branch, and people goes there and doing the transactions. But nowadays, people are forgetting almost, most of the people are not required to go to the banks, specifically during the COVID-19 pandemic. So now, along with the COVID pandemic, again bringing to the new normal things nowadays, everything has to be normal, but it should be different from the regular operations that what we do. Here, along with the developments, technological developments in the banking, the cyber crimes have increased like anything. So security also has to be developed. Security also has to be taken into cognizance when we are implementing new technologies. So that became a completely agile model for delivery and also implementing the cyber security. So earlier days, normally what we do is when we are implementing a new product or new build into the system, once we deploy or just before deployment, we will go for the security testing and we go for the deployment. Nowadays, in the development itself, security has become a important point, and security has to be agile along with the development and meeting the requirements of the public. But particularly the type of clients that we have in the cooperative banks, specifically the rural areas, the customers doesn't have much knowledge about the technology and the technological frauds. But nowadays, because of the expansion of the communication network across the rural areas, nook and corners of the country, now rural people also are able to utilize the technology for their banking operations. But they doesn't know much about these cyber frauds or the possibility of the cyber hacking and other things. So we cannot educate each and every customer who is using this banking technology, though it has spread across the nook and corners of the society. Now, we have to take more precautions when we are providing new facilities to the customers. So that's why a lot of investment also we need to make, and a lot of people like our CyberArk and other partners who are having a lot of experience in this area, how to support the financial institutions, because financial institutions, if you lose the data or if you lose the information related to the customer, it is directly loss of the money. Whereas in other areas, if some cyber fraud happens, the data again it has to be sold to the others to get the money for the cyber fraudsters. Whereas in the banking institutions, in the financial institutions, directly money can be siphoned out from the system. So that is where we have to be very cautious. And luckily, many of our partners who are having experience in this cyber security, they are supporting us. And now we are coming to the new normal environment, specifically for providing these facilities to our customers. That's how Jyoti is.
Thank you very much, sir. I think you brought up a very important topic of awareness. So we are talking about awareness within the organization. Now, awareness within the customers also is very, very important to prevent the frauds. So I'll come back to you, sir, with this point. Now I would like to move on to Mr. Milind. So I think in the Saraswat bank, the cooperative bank style of the entire technology stack must have been there since so long, and in the environment with well-established traditional setups. So how are you seeing this digital and cloud adoption in the new normal? So what are the challenges that you are facing in the organization?
Yeah, thank you, Jyoti, and good afternoon to fellow panelists. Yes, as you put it rightly, Jyoti, we have been having a traditional setup all along, and banking in India, if you see, is highly regulated also. So there have been the regulatory requirements also regarding data storage and security and maintaining localization of the data. So from that point of view, most of the banks like us in cooperative sector have been having a traditional setup of a captive data center. Then captive, you have to have your own DR, far DR or near DR, whatever the case may be. And then all the setup has been built in-house. So it also required you to have all these skill sets and those resources. And over a period of time, with the new advent of digital banking and new technologies and services coming in, it also becomes difficult to keep on augmenting the resources as well as the infrastructure. So over a period of time, we have been looking at cloud adoption, and some non-core activities like HRMS and email we have taken to cloud. Some UAT environment also we have started setting up on cloud, but not entirely the main my production areas or critical applications I'm taking to cloud, like core banking application. I cannot take it to cloud because then the application vendor support is also required. So from that point of view, we are still having a mix of many applications which are captive on premise, as well as some of the applications, because the digitization needs to have applications and availability 24/7. Because see, from a customer point of view, there are no lines. Whether you are a cooperative bank, you are a new age private sector bank, or whatever bank, the expectations are same. So from that point of view, we need to cater to the customers and their needs as the case may be going forward with the requirements that they have into the digital channel. And particularly since last year, we have seen in the pandemic, the usage of digital channels have increased tremendously. To quote an example, in UPI itself, we have seen a 600% jump in the transactions in 1 year. See, unlike in demonetization, when the graph of digitalization went high and as the cash started flowing back, it subsided. But this time, the usage of digital channel graph is only increasing, it is staying at a higher level. So this time, banks have to ensure that they bring in those kind of resources, we bring in the infrastructure which can be quickly augmented. Because particularly in last festive season, which was opened up after quite some time, almost 5 months of lockdown, we saw a sudden spurt in the transaction. So again, we had to ensure that the infrastructure also is capable of handling that. So that is possible if you go to a cloud environment, then you can easily augment. Otherwise, it becomes a hell of a job moving the resources, ensuring that right amount of infrastructure is in place. So cloud adoption is happening, but it is taking a little time. That's what the take from my side.
But one small question, sir. So are you seeing this cloud adoption is a little bit slow, maybe because of the security concerns, or is it because of moving the traditional setups to cloud is becoming a little bit challenging at the application wise?
I would say it is both, because traditional applications moving to cloud, you need the support from the application vendors. So that is coming slow. And now the application vendors, particularly the kind of applications that we have, like a core banking application, it is difficult to move it to cloud because of the number of functionalities that are built in. And also there have been requirements from RBI in terms of having data privacy. Like for Aadhaar card also, we need to maintain an Aadhaar vault. So all those kind of technologies to build on the cloud presently is a challenge. And secondly, then now that we have a core banking application and we need to build the services on that. Particularly if you see the digital services, they are mostly provided by the fintechs, and fintechs are mainly already having their infrastructures on cloud. So it's all API banking that we look at, that we talk nowadays. So going in for that kind of integration is easier if you go in for a cloud adoption.
Very interesting, sir. Thank you very much. Now with this, I would like to move on to Mr. Pinkesh. So I think in this IT world, this data is the new oil. So I think in your organization, you are working with huge data, and I'm sure AI and analytical models have undergone changes during this pandemic times. So what kind of transformation you are observing and trends that you are seeing in handling huge data volumes in the analytics space?
Thanks, Jyoti, and thanks to B2B Media as well for giving this opportunity. So yes, we are dealing with huge data because we are receiving data from being a credit bureau, receiving data from all the microfinance banks and NBFCs, right? And during this pandemic, so we already started working with AI/ML before this pandemic itself, and because of the data size is so huge that it is difficult to do things manually. We have to rely on more on machine learning kind of algorithms which we have to develop, right? But what we have seen is the models which were developed in past and the more digital channel which is happening now, people are talking about payday loan, people are talking about BNYL, buy now pay later, and all those the products which are coming into the market requires very different kind of an modeling. The data which has to be given to this machine learning or AI/ML also is very different, because the loan ticket sizes has changed. It has changed, moved from like 20 years or 10 years or 5 years of personal loan, even I would say, to 6 months of a loan, right? The loan is just for 6 months. No, now the cycle of the entire term has changed a lot. So the kind of model which we have to develop is also changed, has gone through a change. And that's why what we have done, Jyoti, is we have divided our regular process versus the new, which is a more digital channel or fintech, which are collaborating with us to have a joint model development kind of an approach we have taken. Also, what we have done is the new norms which are coming from the open banking, the transactional data, because now with the pandemic, you have to go more detail analyzing the financial transactions as well, not only on the credit worthiness, right? Because some sectors are doing excellent, some sectors are doing really bad. For example, food, IT, those sectors are really doing good, pharmaceutical, right? But at the same time, travel industry has impacted a lot. So, evaluating the credit worthiness based on the transaction financial data in the sector and the subsector level is also very important. So whatever the data, whatever we can use, we are trying to do that, fit it into this model, and then develop new scores. For example, initially we used to give credit bureau score as a single score, right? Based on the kind of product they have taken, like two-wheeler or a personal loan or a housing loan. But now what we are trying to do is, if we can develop the sector specific, product specific score, and if we can help the industry in doing the analysis of, whether to in the underwriting, whether to approve or not, we are trying to do that as well. So a lot of R&D is going on, Jyoti. I'm not saying that everything is up and running or developed, because still we don't know when this situation is going to get over. But still we are doing a lot of R&D to be ready when the new normal comes. And but still at the same time, to process such kind of data, it's not possible only on-prem, right? Because you cannot predict how much you have to do that. So we are also investing a lot of on technology side, where on the infrastructure side, where we are going to have a hybrid model. So as mentioned by Mr. Milind, that RBI has a regulation, and going cloud is not easy, because we also deal with the financial data. So we have to mix and match what we can do anonymous data on the cloud. We can put it, process it, and then develop such kind of models. So those kind of transformation we are doing right now to process huge data, Jyoti, I would say.
Okay, thank you very much, Pinkesh. One small question I'm having, because you're handling this huge data and all, this is not a kind of traditional application delivery setup. So you are having a lot of data, you have to handle the analytical models and all. How you are ensuring agility is coming in picture in coping up with this kind of new normal parameters, because all the parameters got changed, as I understand from you. So in your models and all. So how are you ensuring this agility, and at the same time ensuring the security also, like?
Right. So there are a couple of things which I want to highlight, Jyoti. Here is, from the application point of view, we have adopted the microservice architecture or API-based architecture, right? Which Mr. Milind was also speaking about it. So from that point of view, we are making sure that our applications are migrated to the latest technology like microservice architecture, Dockers and CI/CD and all. So whenever we are doing any changes, the deployment is only impacted to that small thing, not the entire application, right? So agility point of view, we are taking care of that. But at the same time, the hybrid architecture which I mentioned, Jyoti, is very, very important, because many times, what we have to do is suddenly, even in festive season, or after the after the lockdown, and we have seen the huge the volume is also increasing, right? To process that kind of volume, people are taking more and more credit. People are coming through digital channel, where underwriting, like we have to provide credit reports within a less than 3 seconds. Those kind of SLA also we have to meet. For that, we have actually moved some of our application to cloud and taking advantage of, the skill, you can scale up the infrastructure and all those things. Now, how to build in the security part into it is very, very complex, right? So when you are doing all these things, you have to make sure that all your APIs are, you have gone through the API security. So while development itself, we are making sure that the tools, right kind of tools are in place, so that the source code scan is going on, nothing going in production without scanning. From the security point of view, we have to make sure that we are having this VAPT and all those things on regular basis, or maybe on monthly or bi-weekly basis. So those are in place. Some of the tools like CyberArk and all we are using to make sure that people who are accessing the data within our production region are also using this kind of tools, PIM and PAM solutions, not directly. At the same time, we have SOC in place, those kind of things as well. So and while storing data, you need to store data which is encrypted on. So a lot of things are already in place, so that our performance to deliver the output is not impacted as well. So those things we are taking care of as well, Jyoti. While doing all this architecture.
Very interesting. I think now the toughest job of IT leader is to ensure everything, agility in the delivery, and also at the same time ensuring security right from the design level. Thanks a lot, Pinkesh. So now with this, I would like to ask Mr. Rohan Vaidya. So, Rohan, in this new normal, we are seeing more and more organizations are going for digital transformation and transforming their processes with more emphasis on delivery agility. But do you really see this agile security is also becoming a new normal? And what are the changes that you are seeing nowadays in the organization's thought process and the way they are approaching you and all?
Right. So let me start off with the banking as an institution. So banking is more of a relationship and trust. And if you look at the traditional banking channel, which was going to a branch, people went to a branch primarily because they trusted the place of business. And when you entered a branch, you probably knew people within the branch. The people knew their customer. And that was how you kind of wanted to keep your money, and you believed it was safe. Now, that is the same thing when it goes to a digital media. The trust is no longer on the name of the bank, but the trust is on the system what the bank provides. And the more the robust the system is, and more the robust the platform is, the more the trust of the consumer is going to be. So I think that's the largest challenge which every banking organization or a banking business head is facing, in terms of how do I make sure that my customers really believe that this digital platform, which they have been forced to use to a certain extent because of the COVID situation, and there is a new gen of people who only want to work on the digital platform. How do I make sure that one is trustworthy? The second part of it, from a relationship perspective, how am I able to build a very, very sticky relationship with people who want to spend maybe a few seconds or few minutes on either a mobile or on a laptop to perceive what the bank can offer to them? So I think these are the larger challenges that they are in grappling with. And the outcome of that is, moving to the cloud, having a lot of things which could be AI or ML and things like those. These are just the outcomes of all these initiatives which come in. So most of the banks, like we've been in conversation with one of the largest private sector bank in India, where the business head is more keen to not just recognize a person when he comes on the digital, in terms of saying that this is how what the profile is and things like those. But he's saying that every time I would make a transaction, I would be able to tell him that, look, you have so much credit on your credit card. You can probably afford to have a meal today at Taj, but maybe if you continue to have that for the next couple of days, you may not be able to pay your bills. Now, that's the kind of AI which they are expecting in terms of what they could be able to educate their customers. So the bots and the chats and everything which they kind of building around that is in terms of what would be the customer delight I can create in a digital environment in a very, very short span of time or those eyeballs which I have for a few seconds, how do I really delight the customer to come back and keep using my services more? So that is something which is now becoming a larger part of it. And the business is really driving it hard and making it tougher for our colleagues, which are security professionals or IT professionals within the banks. And there is always a major clash in terms of whether it should be business or whether it should be security first. So having said that kind of a context in terms of what probably is a larger battle within the business in banking, the agility from a security perspective is transforming in a very different way. Because all this while, when it was a bank, on-prem bank where people walked in, there was a physical security, there was a data center security, and there were a lot of things which were there. And the identity of a person who would walk in had multiple validations from an access perspective. It could be a physical access or things like those, right? When it comes to a cloud environment, when it comes to a digital environment, your identity security becomes the largest play. Because I could be Rohan Vaidya, who the bank recognizes, but it may be somebody else who's actually logging in and doing whatever transactions he has to do. So initially, the business that we were in, which was primarily into privilege access management, and the privilege access management more revolved around the administrators or IT administrators within the bank who had to be monitored. Now, with the cloud environment and the digital environment, in a particular circumstances, a business user or standard user, or even to a certain extent, a consumer could become a privileged user. And that is something which is a very easy attack chain for an hacker, because the moment I have a privileged access, I'm elevating my access or I'm compromising your privileges, which allows me to really be able to breach either your endpoints, either your systems, or it could be whatever form the breach could go to. So I think the larger play that we see is primarily on the identity security part of it. And of course, everybody is now moving on to a DevOps platform. The DevOps platform again opens a different arena of security, because the developers never want to have a secure, the security guys telling them what to do. They have open source that they access to and things like those. The secret management becomes a large part of their thing. So cutting across privileges, not just from a physical infrastructure or the cloud infrastructure, but it is also going back to the development team which is there. And also we are saying that the development team should also understand in terms of the security threats and start building it as a part of their development. So what we heard from one of our channels that design in security in design is a primary part which also helps. So these are areas which seem to be from an agility, security, which needs to be there. And every bank is on a cloud journey in some form or the other. 2 years or 3 years back, all conversations that I was having with the banks, cloud was a clear no-no. And suddenly we see every single bank, including the public sector bank, are now exploring how their journey to the cloud can be accelerated. Leave aside how they started, but how do I accelerate and how do I eventually become a 100% cloud bank in future?
Yeah, completely agree with you, Mr. Rohan. Actually, the access management is the main thing, and when whoever is going to cloud, I keep on hearing access management is the most important thing to be taken care of. Yes. So with this, I would like to ask Mr. Srinivasa. So Rohan has mentioned that business first or security first. So do you really think agile delivery and security with agility, so both can go hand in hand? So what kind of methodologies you follow to achieve this?
Yeah, that's actually that is required nowadays, because now the security has become the primary and foremost thing. Now, most of the cases, what we are observing from the regulator perspective also, your business development growth should be parallel with your security administration and security implementations. And all the discussion now is going on the cloud, hybrid cloud, how it is moving. So specifically, when we are going for the public cloud, or completely on cloud, or partly on cloud, like hybrid cloud. So what's happening is none of the cloud providers are giving the assurance on security. None of the. And on the other side, regulator is always asking about the ownership of the security. So security should be the subject of the data owner. Even if I am putting my core banking or any other digital channels or any other data on the cloud, the security of this data, security of the customer information, everything, the responsibility is by the organization, so which is handling the business. So here, the security has to be definitely, it has to go parallelly when we are moving on in the kind of this agile environment, and requirements are coming day by day. So you cannot have a kind of waterfall method, what we follow normally in the banking applications in the earlier days. So nowadays, it's not the case. Now you have to be agile in your application development. At the same time, you have to be agile in your security implementations also. So security service providers or the security architecture of the banks or the financial institutions have to be always aligned with the application development in the agile model. That is mandatory. And the methodology, yes, you mentioned about the methodology. Yes, now we are concentrating more from our service providers. What we are asking is, you have to provide the security certification before releasing the deployment. That is mandatory. And after that, what we are doing is, we ourselves are conducting some security testing of these applications which we are going to deploy. Almost on a continuous basis. Now new digital channels have to be implemented. The enhancements are coming day by day. Now the data security laws are also coming. Like GDPR, India is also going to have some more security data privacy laws. So here, security, we cannot ignore security, and security is in the driver's seat today in the application development of the service delivery from the banking institutions. So these kind of methods that we follow now.
Yeah, definitely. I think security has to be starting right from the design and development phase. I think that is the methodology that everyone is adopting nowadays, and DevSecOps and all these methods hopefully will pick up. I think slowly we started the journey maybe a couple of years back. I think hopefully these things will mature soon. So I will move on to Mr. Milind. So Milind, as a technology leader, what do you think, what kind of approaches work better to achieve agile delivery? Especially in the banking sector, we keep on hearing API banking and banking as a service and all those things. So these are actually putting in any additional security threat, or these are becoming new normal? What is happening in your organization?
Well, it is a both. I would say it's interesting times, since we have to ensure that digital products and its delivery to the users, particularly the millennials and the new users. At the same time, we also need to ensure that the services which are on premise for customers who are with us for decades continue to be that. So we have to ensure that for the customers who do the transaction and immediately want to do the passbook printing, so we need to ensure those services are available physically. At the same time, we also need to ensure that the digital channels which are more and more coming into the fore are available to the users. And for that, as I was saying, we need to integrate with APIs with many of the fintechs, but at the same time, we also need to ensure the security part of it, because security is, as Mr. Srinivasan was saying, is now the prominent feature of any product that we need to offer. And of course, we tie up those service providers with SLAs. We also ask for security certifications and so on and so forth. But at the same time, if we are getting any product customized, or we are doing any development of a product, that we need to ensure that agile security is followed. As Mr. Srinivasan said, that waterfall method no longer works. So we need to ensure that, because the product delivery is required to be as of yesterday. The business requires any products which is as of yesterday, because already you have pressures from competitions in the market, and the new age banks, they are born with the technology spoon. So we need to ensure that we are there for for offering the services. So we need to have these products launched as early as possible, but at the same time, we also need to ensure that security is not compromised, because continuous audits we are facing, and so we ensure all those security implications, and before launching the product, all the reviews are in place, and we are good to go with that. So for me, I would say that for banks, we need to ensure that agile security practices are adopted while developing the product or launching it also.
Definitely, sir. Thank you very much. I would like to ask Mr. Pinkesh. So, one challenge is handling this real-time data, right? So, when you are getting the real-time data and you need to give the decisioning in an agile way, so what kind of measures and challenges you are having in handling these kind of things, at the same time ensuring the security?
Sure. Thanks, Jyoti. This is a very good question. So a lot of things, especially in the real-time data decisioning, all those things, I think which is mostly happening due to CPU to CPU communication, right, or API to API communication. So like some controls like WAF and all is very, very important for us, to have in place, so that we from the web application firewall level, we are making sure that we are not getting any attacks, and right APIs are getting communicated with each other. At the same time, IP level validation, some of the things like those needs to be whitelisted, and we are getting from the right kind of IP. So those kind of validations we have kept in place while developing the applications. So those are the OOPS. If you see OOPS, you have some guidelines, right? So while doing the development itself, we are making sure that we are following all those guidelines, and then only we are moving to production from the API development point of view as well. Also, in my past, I mentioned that microservice architecture. So that is also allowing us that we are not, once we have the product is developed, we don't have to do the regression everything again and again, because we are only changing that service which is getting impacted or enhanced, right? So that is only getting deployed. So we need to check only that part of the service only for any security check. So the time to market is very fast because of that. At the same time, what we have seen is adopting DevSecOps, which you have mentioned as well. DevSecOps is very, very important. Previously, we only used to talk about DevOps, right? Now, it is not anymore DevOps. It is a DevSecOps, which you should live in. Every developer should know about it. Should follow those guidelines as well. So we have adopted that as well, Jyoti. So those are the things we are taking care of right now to make sure that we are in line with the industry standard from the security point of view, and what we are developing to the market is also very, very fast. We are not developing one product in next 3 months or 4 months. We are delivering every week something from the enhancement point of view as well, Jyoti. So that's how we are taking care of it.
Very interesting, Pinkesh. So I would like to ask Mr. Rohan. So with the security parameter getting redefined, and work from home and multiple digital processes are actually redefining this security perimeter. So what kind of threats are increasing in the current situation? So and what would you suggest? What kind of measures organizations should take to maintain the cyber hygiene?
So work from home has kind of opened up a big Pandora box in terms of the protocols that the security folks were able to really enforce, especially in a BFSI organization. There was a lot of control which the BFSI organization or the security folks within the BFI organization had on all their users, especially their IT users or business users, because most of the businesses would come to office and log in from a very secure network. And what happened with COVID situation was they were really forced to move out and start working. Now, initially, there were restrictions in terms of not really using or not really logging in, but as the time kind of pushed pressure on everybody, on every business, that they had to open up certain protocols and let people work. Now, few of the things which became very prominent, that since people were working from home, it was always a normal way of life that if it was my office asset, I would use it only for my office work. But as things kind of grew more tougher, you had kids who were using it for their schools. You had you actually doing e-commerce on those offices, and they were much more exposed to then what your normal office would have used it, or you would normally use a VPN to connect into things. So there was a big change which really happened. Also, I know a lot of organizations which kind of started letting you use your own laptops, own devices, because there was a time where if your laptop crashed, you just couldn't do anything. So certain things were given. Now that kind of opened a floodgate in terms of what the security and the IT team within an organization could really handle. And the transactions were really peaking. So you couldn't really manage that. So most of the times what we saw was the attacks which happened, which were very, very unsophisticated attacks, but were in volumes. So if there was an organization which had 100,000 employees, and if 25-30,000 employees started getting affected with a simple malware, it was a big challenge for the IT security folks which were there. So I think one of the larger challenges that as CyberArk we were able to help most of our customers was that we had a couple of offerings which were more to do as an alternative to VPN, which was a product that we launched during the pandemic side, which was a biometric access, which could really get into your system without really going through a provisioning of that. And we ran a lot of trial licenses for people or customers who would want to sign up for that. And that really helped for people to securing their access to the physical assets or I would say the IT critical assets which were there when they were at home. The other thing is what we encouraged a lot of our customers was to have their devices loosely connected devices utilize one of our endpoint managers, which kind of we worked on a very simple thing which was least privilege. So as long as your privileges are as minimal as possible, the possibility of an attack being successful is always lower. So it was more of that kind of a thought that we brought within the community, especially with our customers, is start thinking like an attacker. If I was an attacker, what would I do to your system? And if you start thinking on those lines, you would start probably closing all the gates much easier rather than following a policy that you would probably want to just pick things. And what we tried transforming quite a few of our organizations or customers, especially saying, from a cyber or a security compliance organization, try to move towards a security aware or eventually to a security hyper organization. As long as you are able to drive that within the organization, I think it's going to be far more fruitful than being just saying, okay, I'm compliant, because we've seen, the forensics always show that a lot of compliant organizations get breached. So compliance is probably a good tick in the box, but that doesn't really take care of what the business needs are.
Yeah, very true. The very interesting points you mentioned, this biometric, other authentication in the VPN, and also now everybody, including our organization, most of them are using the systems through VPN. So I think these kind of checks are very much required, and these are actually becoming new normal is what I feel. Security is actually ever evolving. A lot of things, a lot of changes we are seeing during this pandemic. So I would like to, I think we have 5 minutes. I would like to have closing remarks from Mr. Srinivas. So what should be the focus points for a IT leader, according to you, to give the agile delivery and at the same time to achieve the security?
That is very critical question, in fact, because as an IT leader, every day we have to ensure business growth through IT, because nowadays IT became the driver for the business growth, and security at the same time, and rightly mentioned by our Milind. So we, though whatever the size of the organization, we need to compete with the top organizations in the country or in the world. So that is the biggest challenge. So in a hurry, if we have to implement some of the new initiatives, then again security comes into the picture. So as an IT leader, so we have to balance the business growth, the new initiatives, and also the security, again the regulatory compliances, and taking the management along with us in the progress of IT infrastructure and implementations and security in the organization. So managing in and out.
Very true.
Regulator, management, customers. So this is the very difficult job for the IT leader in the organization.
Very true, very true. Milind, closing comments from your sides. What would you think people should be focusing on?
People should be focusing on both business growth as well as security, because security is not something which you need to ensure at a point of time, but it has to be a continuous security. And compliances particularly, compliances no longer are the days where we look at compliances as a point of time compliance, but it's a period in time compliance. So the compliance has to be on a continuous basis that we need to ensure. And as Pinkesh has mentioned, when you do the application developments, you have to adopt controls like OAPs, and you need to have DevSecOps. So that is a kind of development that we need to move at, wherein we bring in agility in terms of the applications and the services that we provide, but at the same time, we ensure that the compliances are period in time.
That's true, sir. So, Pinkesh, from your side, what would you suggest for huge data setups, especially because yours is a kind of huge data setup, both real time and also data at rest also?
So, Jyoti, I think what I would suggest is, for huge data setup, use new technology like big data and all for parallel processing. Without that, it is like impossible with the traditional architecture. And hybrid model for runtime scale up and all those things is very, very important. At the same time, I would also like to give suggestion on that. Going forward, I think Scrum or Agile kind of methodology for any software development is going to be the right approach, and DevSecOps should be part of it, compulsory. So that's my comment on this, because security is not a separate thing anymore. It is part of your day-to-day development activity as well.
Yeah, very true. Thanks, Pinkesh. Rohan, from your side, I would like to know what kind of methodologies you would suggest to the organizations. What kind of securities they should be focusing on? Because I think nowadays they are all over. So there are a lot of things are happening. So what should be their priority?
Right. So I would rather draw an analogy from a normal life to a new normal. In normal life, you would always advise people to be street smart and have common sense. And in the new normal, I would say that you should be digitally smart and have a cyber sense. I think if you have these two components, it's really going to be much more easier. Otherwise, we are going to be entangled in newer technologies and newer methodologies as we go along. If these are two parameters, or these are two behavioral traits that if we can cultivate within, not just within the organization, but also within the consumers, I think that would really help.
That's very true, very true. I think with this we are ending this panel discussion. A lot of insights and all the banking and huge data setups, and from Rohan, from your side, a lot of insights on the security and all. I think security is not an option now, and it has to be starting right from the development phase, and people should be aware of what are the new things happening and keep on evolving their security setups. Lot of insights we got, and I hope audiences also have enjoyed this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jyoti. Thanks, Harish and B2B team.